Ladies and gentlemen, here we are live broadcasting worldwide on this Wednesday, the 26th day of February, 2014. I am your host, Alex Jones. We're going to be here for the next 3 hours. And boy, do we have some very informative guests joining us today. We've got Art Acevedo, the Austin police chief. Has been set up for 2 weeks to come on today. He's in the middle of international controversy in foreign newspapers, national papers, you name it, for saying, hey, at least Austin police don't rape and shoot and torture people, which actually is a statement I've made that as bad as some of the Austin police are, they're better than most cities I've been to. He said that in an off-the-cuff remark, and I've actually said that to him in studio before, and now it's a big deal. But the reason I've got him coming on is to talk about the federalization of law enforcement, where he stands on the Second Amendment, and more. Mike Adams is going to be popping in on his article from naturalnews.com that's up on Infowars.com. Google robots, Kurzweil's AI, and why self-aware machines will inevitably seek to destroy humanity. He's going to be popping in. And Chris Driscoll, the gentleman who was wearing a pro-Second Amendment shirt and got thrown out of a voting booth, that story made national news. We broke it last week. That is coming up as well. By the way, he reached out to us, and we're excited about it. Tucker Carlson of the Daily Caller and Fox News is going to be in studio in the first hour Friday. That's the only hour he can do it, but he'll be in studio with us for a lively discussion and debate about the future of libertarianism, the Republican Party, and more. So I think it'll be a friendly discussion, but / debate, with Tucker Carlson coming up in studio Friday when he's here in Austin, where we broadcast from, obviously. So that's coming up. And we have some really special guests tomorrow. Tomorrow we have the retired state police officer from Connecticut who's been investigating Sandy Hook and being threatened and harassed. And clearly Sandy Hook is staged. We don't know exactly what happened. I want to be clear. It's kind of like if the cops know you're lying about something and they know your story doesn't fit and they know you're involved somehow and they know your official story isn't true, they still don't know what exactly went on. You understand? But we're going to be talking to school shooting expert, threatened over Sandy Hook investigation, was told to back off if bad things are going to happen to him. Wolfgang Halbig is going to be joining us tomorrow for a full hour to be talking about what's happening with that situation. I believe they killed real kids. We know they were having a drill. We know they had actors that came out and put out the official story and got caught acting. And we've got footage of the known CIA operative, Anderson Cooper, with a green screen, blue screen, with his nose disappearing. And you can see a loop of footage shot there at the square in Connecticut, there in Sandy Hook. And you see bags blowing, and then the bag blows the same way again. I mean, it's a loop, folks. So something's going on. And they caught a Homeland Security federalized cop. They caught a Homeland Security federalized cop in the same black top camo pants, was arrested minutes after the whole thing started when local police showed up. And then they said, oh, we never stopped anybody. It's made up, even though there's helicopter footage. They later had to admit it, so there's a cover-up there. All the signs are there. All the signs are there that it was a drill, and we don't know what else happened there. But it was all staged to get our guns. We know that. And so that's coming up tomorrow. I just wanted to let you know about that because it's very important. Now, when we come back, gold rises a 17-week high on signs of U.S. economy sputtering. That's Bloomberg. Putin orders combat readiness test for Western Central Russian troops. And the big one, we told you the IRS is coming for your bank account and to garnish your wages and to take your tax refund for Obamacare. Of course, Obama promised you that wouldn't happen. It is Wednesday, the 26th day of February, 2014. The embattled Austin police chief, Art Acevedo, is scheduled to be in studio. He's made international headlines in the last week with statements after the police tackled and arrested a woman who was jogging, wearing earbuds, listening to music, and did not hear their command to stop. And he said, hey, she's lucky she didn't get raped like other police departments would do. And then he gave examples of police raping women. And I guess it really is a real argument as sneaky and slick as Acevedo is, he does have the will to come in on air and argue with me and debate, and he does say off-the-cuff things that I actually agree with. I mean, it shows how much trouble this country is in that we ought to be glad they're just not raping people like some other big police departments are. But that's not why I've got him coming on, but we'll raise that issue with him at the bottom of the third hour. By the way, one of my friends went out to eat in downtown last week, and about 10 o'clock at night was leaving after the business meeting, and he got pulled over with him and his buddy, and both of them are not, one of them hardly drinks, the other person hasn't had anything to drink in 17 years. He's proud of that. And the cop screams at him, "Get out of the car." He's like, "Well, what have I done?" "Well, just get out of the car, and you're gonna breathe in this breathalyzer using force, using threat." "Okay, I'll breathe in the breathalyzer." And then no alcohol found. So the other guy says, "I haven't had anything to drink in 17 years. He screams at him and says, "I don't believe you. Shut up, liar." And that all goes on. And he said the cop looked like he was about 19 years old and was just screaming at him the whole time. And I just don't know if I can handle this anymore. In a so-called free country, being treated like that. Now, most Austin police do not act like that. And I know we're a nationwide radio show. It's just that more and more, it's like we're in Fallujah, and I'm an al-Qaeda operative is the way I'm being treated or something. Like I'm a terrorist, and I've just quite frankly had enough of it. But that's coming up. We're going to have open phones, obviously, today and cover a ton of news. Rand Paul is the GOP's early presidential frontrunner. While the establishment hopes for a governor to emerge, he is quietly putting together a formidable operation. Rand Paul and then, of course, Ted Cruz are libertarian conservatives and are the guys that help beat the gun grab in the Senate. People could say, oh, they're not perfect on this or that. They're light years better than Hillary Clinton. They're light years better than Chucky Schumer. They're light years better than Harry Reid and Barack Obama. And they have ideas that will help get this country back on track. And it shows how awake this country is, that just 3 years ago, Rand Paul was seen as a radical and as a long shot, and the Republican establishment lined up to try to beat him in the primaries in Kentucky. And the Democrats lined up against him, big business lined up against him, but it failed. And it's an example of how libertarian constitutionalists can take over the Republican Party. Now, just 2 months ago, Ted Cruz was the front runner in polls and with money to be able to run for president. But Rand Paul started getting more hardcore and saying, why is Bill Clinton raising money when he's a known serial rapist, sexual predator? Why is the system and feminists not going after this guy? And Rand Paul is back in the news today in CBS News. Rand Paul, Democrats should be embarrassed to be seen with Bill Clinton. Exactly. He's calling out the shame of these people. And that's how you win, is calling the other side out on Benghazi, on Fast and Furious, on Salandra, on shutting down our power plants, on Obama acting like a dictator, on Obamacare. But you don't see any of the Republican blue bloods doing any of this, do you? Zero. All you see them doing is running around like Tasmanian devils with their heads cut off, chickens with their heads cut off, trying to beat the Tea Party. Because the globalists have already conquered this nation. They've already conquered us through fraud, illegitimately. And so now they've just got to have the illusion of choice between Republican and Democrat. But if the Tea Party comes in and takes over, well, then there's actually a second party in this country, and there's choice, and people will realize there's hope, and they will get behind good candidates, and then the process can be reversed. We can start going back on the path of prosperity. Because I don't care how much power the globalists have. Once they've been identified, once they've been exposed as scamsters and fraudsters and basically kleptocrats, it's game over. And we have the tools right now, ladies and gentlemen, to absolutely bring this corrupt oligarchy down. But we have to get aggressive if we've got any hope of ever doing that. Okay, let's get into some of the news here. I just mentioned this. IRS warns Obamacare tax must be paid with tax return. Agency employs Orwellian term shared responsibility payment to describe Obamacare individual tax mandate. And they go on the IRS website to say that you will be made to pay it and to report on yourself in your tax return, and that they're going to come for your money. The term shared tax responsibility payment refers to Obamacare individual mandate tax, one of at least 7 tax hikes in the Obamacare law that directly hit families making less than $250,000 per year. And, of course, they're talking about garnishing wages, not sending tax refunds, and grabbing money out of bank accounts. The IRS goes on to say if you've not paid the $5,000 fine or gotten the so-called health care, you may owe a shared responsibility payment when you file in 2015. Did you hear that? They're going to call it the shared responsibility payment, and the IRS is going to collect. It's like when they hired 17,000 new IRS agents in the bill. They went, no, we're not going to tax you. The IRS isn't going to take that money. I mean, it's in the bill, and it's a law, but we're not going to. Now let the bill pass. Yeah, shut up, racist. Everybody knows they're not going to tax this liar. Well, it's in the bill. You need to shut up, teabagger. And now we see it all unfolding from the IRS's own website. And meanwhile, Obama is running around going, oh, I'm going to waive it for a year. I'm going to, only for big corporations, not for individuals. I mean, it is a giant screw job, ladies and gentlemen. And they're getting away with it, so why not? Next, they're going to take your bank accounts, your 401ks, your IRAs, and take a large percentage of it, nationalizing it. That's all being announced, already being done in Europe. Bail-ins, they're going to take large slices of your bank account money and threaten that the stock market's going to tank if you don't. That's how they hold you hostage. It's the same program over and over and over again. And they're placing more and more capital controls on cash and other systems. Here's a Washington Post article. Obama administration health law. Health law's new rules will increase costs for most small businesses. Yes, it'll make people cut hours and lay folks off. But hey, can always go on welfare. And Breitbart reports perpetual amnesty. Minors illegally crossing Texas border on the rise because their parents can then be brought in under the new amnesty law that Obama is implementing by fiat. So that's just some of the news on that front. Continuing here today, gold rises to 17-week high on signs of U.S. economy sputters. Well, it's on the weakening dollar. That's why they artificially keep gold down. That even came out in the Financial Times of London 2 days ago in a big report that they then pulled today, 2 days later. Didn't retract it, didn't say it was wrong, just deep-sixed it. Zero Hedge is reporting on that right now, and that's also up on Infowars.com. Continuing here, gold futures climbed to the highest in almost 17 weeks on speculation that a sputtering U.S. economy will boost demand for the metal as an alternative investment. U.S. consumer confidence fell more than forecast in February from January. An index from the New York-based Conference Board showed today home prices rose at a slower pace in the 12 months that ended in December, according to a separate report. Russia's deputy finance minister said Ukraine faces a high chance of defaulting on its sovereign debt. Gold has gained 12% this year. Told you that was coming. They can only artificially suppress it so long. Here's a big report up on Infowars.com from last night. And I'm going to ask Don and Kit to put this back in the tiles on the front page of PrisonPlanet.com and Infowars.com because it's a big deal. We told you this was coming in Connecticut. Surrender your firearms, Connecticut tells unregistered gun owners. That's right. And New York is banning anything over 10 rounds and SWAT teaming people. State orders owners of newly banned unregistered firearms to turn them all in. The state of Connecticut is now demanding that gun owners across the state turn in all newly banned unregistered firearms and magazines or face felony arrest. the state police special licensing and firearms unit began mailing out notices to gun owners who attempted to register their firearms and accessories with the state, but did not do so in time for the January 1st deadline of Connecticut's newly enacted gun law. Their answer is turn them in. The law bans the sale of magazines holding over 10 rounds, assault rifles, as anything semi-automatic. We are returning your application for assault rifle certificate, large capacity magazine declaration, because it has not received or postmarked prior to January 1st, 2014, as required by law. So there you go. It wasn't just register them. It was actually a confiscation law. 90+% were unable to register. The SWAT teams are coming. Imagine Connecticut, where they tell you you got to go register all your semi-autos and your magazines and clips, and then the government offices weren't open long enough. People are unable to do it. A lot of folks just didn't do it because it's unconstitutional. And now the state police are sending them letters saying, we're getting ready to come arrest you. You're not allowed to register it now. You just got to turn them all in. Law-abiding citizens. This is an illegitimate government. More and more. And we're not saying the average person that works for the system is a bad person. We don't want to be your enemy. But you've got to stop following these unconstitutional orders. The American people have got to stop following it. You've got election fraud. You've got all sorts of criminality going on. You've got illegals allowed to vote all over the country and being given driver's license while citizens are harassed. I mean, it's unprecedented how you're penalized if you try to work in the system and do what you're told in this country. And it's getting worse and worse by the day. Now, speaking of things being rigged, it came out with LIBOR internationally. They're rigging interest rates. A few years ago, even Rolling Stone had a cover story about everything is rigged was the headline. All the major IRAs, all the major stocks, all the major derivative funds. It's rigged, folks, for insiders to be able to take over. There's the headline. Everything is rigged, the biggest price-fixing scandal ever. And that means that select insiders get to take over all the markets, not because of productivity, not because of quality, not because of competition, but because their combine is in control. This is what the right wing won't explain to you. They say all corporations are perfect and are good. The left says all corporations are bad, only government is good. When it's a fascist model, a corporatist model on top, a fascist model on top with socialism on the bottom as a tool of domestication and control. This is the type of issue we're talking about here. And it's not my opinion that we've had world currency devaluations, especially in the dollar, in the last 30 years. I mean, when I started promoting gold in 1996, it was $300 an ounce or less. It peaked almost at $2,000. I didn't sell one piece of gold or silver I bought. Silver went up to 50, went back down to 20. I didn't sell a single piece of it. Because I fundamentally know that they're devaluing paper across the board, all sorts of financial instruments in a bubble. And in the final equation, gold and silver and platinum and palladium and copper and so many other commodities traded on the open mercantile exchange are going to go up. And the elites, universities, governments, they're all hoarding it as well. They're net sellers of paper gold to short the market, naked short it, but they're overall hoarders and massive owners of the metals physically. Now, let's get into Bloomberg. Gold rises to 17-week high on signs U.S. economy sputters. The Consumer Confidence Index, home prices, all of it points towards the Federal Reserve cutting, and that we were really in a slump in 2013. We've been in a slump since 2008. Now, let's continue here. Here is the Financial Times of London. Zero Hedge was able to save it. Here is the Financial Times gold price manipulation article that was removed. 2 days ago, FT, the most prestigious financial paper in the world, released a clear, informative, and fact-based article titled, simply enough, Gold Price Rigging Fears Put Investors on Alert, in which author Madison Marriage, let's try to get them on, guys, citing a report by the Fighters Consultancy, revealed that global gold prices may have been manipulated 50% on occasions between January 2010, December 2013. By the way, we ought to get Ted Anderson on the show sometime today to talk about this. And now they've pulled the article. We have a screenshot of that where they said, sorry, the page you're looking for does not exist. They didn't retract it. They deep-sixed it. But it turns out the Financial Times of London, and we have this article mirrored on Infowars.com. Turns out the Financial Times story was saved so that you can actually go read what they said. That's the great part about the internet, or internets, as George W. Bush puts it. When we come back, we have more on Chase imposes new capital controls on cash deposits. One of my crew members has an account there and confirmed this yesterday, trying to deposit some cash. His wife. That's coming up. We're going to get into the latest on the situation in the Ukraine. That's incredibly serious, and a lot more. And I will get more into this polio-like illness that's spreading on the West Coast. Stay with us. We've been reporting on Bank of America, Wells Fargo, all of them basically trying to stop you from wiring money out of the country. All those announcements the last few months. And now the big banks are announcing that when you have a bake sale or you have a food truck or whatever the case is, that when you deposit cash, you've got to show ID when you deposit it, even though it's got an assigned bank account, even though it's got an assigned deposit point into the person's account. You're going to be treated like a criminal for the database. This is all part of capital controls and to track any type of underground economy. Meanwhile, the big mega banks launder $500 billion a year in North America alone of drug money on record and don't get in trouble. But you depositing $5 will be treated like a criminal. And a lot of big banks are saying they're not going to even let you deposit cash anymore. They want to get rid of cash or make you pay and penalize you. So we reported on this last week. Chase imposes new capital controls on cash deposits. Then one of my crew members brought this in this morning. We already had a screenshot of this letter, but we actually have the physical card that they were given, where you can't just drive in and put the cash in an envelope in the night drop. You've got to wait till the day and drive through and show them your ID so it can be put in the database. Important news. See, it's not police state changes treating you like a prisoner. It's news. Important news about cash deposits. When making a cash deposit, please deposit only into personal accounts that list your name. Be ready to show a valid ID for deposits for personal and business accounts. Please talk to us about alternative deposit options. We're happy to help. J.P. Morgan Chase, NA member, FDIC, and Federal Reserve shareholder, I should add. So there you go, ladies and gentlemen. That is going on. That is unfolding. That is what is happening. And we live in a completely rigged system that is accelerating towards internal capital controls, another telltale sign on our road to tyranny. I want to get to some other news here. But first off, I know the guys gave it to me, but I can't find it. Will you give me another video list, please? Thank you very much. I know there's some video clips and reports that I want to get to as well. And we do have the winner up on Infowars.com right now of the NSA-TSA tyranny contest, because the NSA and TSA have been threatening people with arrest, suing people, and threatening suits that are critical of them. And so we funded back in December a $10,000 one winner, first place winner prize, and hundreds of great videos got produced. Everyone is a winner that entered the contest, and some of the videos got 500,000 views. Some of the biggest ones, a lot of the others got hundreds of thousands of views. So millions of people ended up seeing this, and you've done a great job. The winner is Dick Johnson, TSA Wonderkind, by David Kirk West, writer, director, cinematographer, and it deals with the pre-screening. That's really NSA pre-screening, where they track everything you do and use the TSA as the front to data mine all your information. It's now causing a lot of controversy, obviously, because it's totally unconstitutional. We're going to be airing part of this a little bit later on the show, though it's more obviously constructive and inducive to see how good it is watching it. The video is up on Infowars.com right now. Again, we probably want to check my computer in here, because even an hour after an article goes up, it won't show me new stories on this computer. It's very strange, because I know he put it up before the show even started, and as you can see on my computer, it is not the top story. But on your computer out there, it is the top story up on Infowars.com and PrisonPlanet.com, and we're going to send it out on Twitter and on Facebook. And it's a good way to fight back against their tyranny, to send this on to the rest of the folks on your Facebook, to send this on to the rest of the folks on your Twitter. But coming up in the next break, I will tweet it, and I will Facebook it out there for everybody. Now, continuing here with the news, I want to get your take on Obamacare. From Obamacare supporters, you know that they promised you could keep your doctor, you could have pre-existing conditions, you wouldn't be kicked off your insurance. It would cut the cost down to the cost of a phone bill or cable bill. Of course, it's done the opposite. And now the IRS is announcing they will be taking it out of your bank account and out of your wages. On the IRS website, headline, IRS warns Obamacare tax must be paid with tax return. And or they will take it and give you penalties and interest with the collection agency for the private Federal Reserve. And the Supreme Court has ruled this is a tax to the offshore banks openly. So I think that's really one of the biggest stories out there today. And the bigger story is, why isn't it being repealed? Only Rand Paul and Stockman of Texas and Cruz of Texas and Walter Jones of North Carolina and a few others are actually calling for its repeal. John Boehner and others are doing nothing. And the argument with some blue bloods is some of the so-called country club Republicans, the idiots, or those that get money off government contracts. Oh, Obamacare will hurt Obama, so we need to let it go through. That's completely immoral, A. B, the Republican leadership helped write it. It's for foreign insurance companies and offshore banks. It's criminal. And so you will all be held accountable as well for this monstrosity that's designed to destroy our healthcare system further, bankrupt the country, and make people basically become dependent on the system and go on welfare and get their hours cut from 40 to 25 hours. The list goes on and on. I mean, this is such an abomination, and the Tea Party's going to use it to sweep to power if we get behind them. And I mean the real libertarian Tea Party that Ron Paul started, that I helped start when he first ran for office back in 2007. That's what we're talking about, is the real Tea Party, ladies and gentlemen, of 8-9 years ago. Not the one the Republicans tried to create to absorb things. That failed. And so now the whole system's coming after them. And I know I talk about that a lot, but 2014 is the key election year, balance of power. You've got to get libertarians in as Republicans to block this whole thing. And that's why the enemy says that's the main threat and is spending all their time trying to beat it. They discussed that at Bilderberg meetings the last 3 years. They are scared. Here's the toll-free number to join us, 800-259-9231, 800-259-9231, and we will get you up and on the air here today. But I want to get your take on all of this. By the way, the Austin police chief's going to be in studio coming up for 30 minutes in the last hour today. And I thought I'd play this clip where he said at least they're not sexually assaulting people from one of his press conferences. Here's the headline: police chief forced to apologize over comments saying that at least a jogger didn't have to deal with police who sexually assaulted her like other police departments have recently been caught doing. And the footage is out there of the woman jogging with the earbuds in on her iPad or iPod. She can't hear them, so they tackle her, slam her on the ground, and take her to jail. I mean, it's bad enough to tackle somebody because you say they're, quote, jaywalking, but then why didn't you still give her a ticket? Why'd you take her to jail? because it's all about the government's dominance and its authority and its power and teaching you not to stand up. Here is an excerpt of what the police chief said.
Ricky Melendez and Chris Quintero were sitting across the street. Quintero doesn't think the officer did run up beside her, like Acevedo said.
I think he grabbed her slightly from behind, and it may not be from far behind, but enough to where she didn't notice who was grabbing her right away.
Whether or not he grabbed her by behind, it doesn't matter. It's not relevant. At some point, she knows it's a cop. The cop asked her a lawful question that she is lawfully required to answer, and she didn't. That's why she went to jail.
Acevedo says the woman was only arrested for failure to identify, not resisting arrest. He says if he had arrested her, he wouldn't have been so generous.
And at the end of the day, that officer has to stop him somehow. He didn't tackle her to the ground.
Yeah, they jumped on her.
You know, it's kind of interesting what passes for controversy in Austin, Texas. Thank you, Lord, that it's a controversy in Austin, Texas, that we actually had the audacity to touch somebody by the arm and tell them, oh my goodness, Austin police are trying to get your attention. Whew. In other cities, cops are actually committing sexual assaults on duty. So I thank God that this is what passes for a controversy in Austin, Texas.
I mean, I kind of agree with that statement, that just because other departments are so bad on average, big departments, doesn't mean that it's okay. And by the way, they did grab her and twist her arm out her back and put her on the ground. So more baloney from Acevedo coming up in studio. That's not the main reason I was getting him on. We got a report we're going to premiere later today if we have time, or it'll be on the Nightly News tonight. Jakari Jackson went out yesterday to a man on the street asking folks what they thought about it. The point is, police in the past wouldn't have acted like this. And a lot of times they would shoot them or taser them. You hear about autistic people, deaf folks being attacked from behind, people that don't speak English. It's scary because a lot of cops out there really are PTSD, loose cannons, whatever the case is, and they've been taught you're going to be backed up whatever you do. The main reason I wanted him in studio, and I heard him say this months ago on 590 AM, he said, follow whatever order you're given, even if you think it's unlawful, and you won't get hurt. Well, actually, there's Supreme Court and state rulings that we have a right to defend ourselves with force from unlawful, unconstitutional orders and directives of police. In fact, guys, you print me some case examples of that. I know there's hundreds of them about court rules. You have a right to defend yourself from police outside of their duties, or court rules. Like I'll search it because I have to come up with the exact term. Indiana passed a law allowing deadly force against police to try to enter your home without a warrant. I mean, these have always been on the book, but they're having to pass new laws stating that you have a right that when they're outside of their lawful duties to resist. We incorporate cities, and we hire police officers to then be professional citizen arrest powers. That's all they have. And now they, like a union, want to get rid of our right to be armed, our right to defend ourselves, and our right to have due process. I've got a bunch of other news on Ukraine. Also, California college student teaches school $50,000 lesson on Constitution, Fox News. Remember, he got cited and arrested for handing out pocket constitutions at the college. And he's now won $50,000. They violated his rights. That just shows how warped the school is to say, oh, to have an official event, you've got to be sanctioned by us. Well, you're allowed to physically hand out whatever you want. You're allowed to hand out Christmas cards that say, I love Jesus on them. The school can't be, if it takes taxpayer money, officially pushing a religious view. And the same thing with a First Amendment view just for speech. So there you go, another example. And people see this everywhere. You know, cops coming over and saying, I've had Austin cops come over and say, turn your camera off, you can't film. And I'm 100 yards from what they're doing. And I go, nope, First Amendment, well, I'm going to arrest you. Well, I don't want to have to sue you, officer, but, you know, please don't violate my First Amendment, and they'll back off. In other cities, I've been arrested for filming, and my cameramen have. And Rob Dew won a big lawsuit with Pittsburgh. And, I mean, he had to do it. He was up on top of a hill filming police attack peaceful college students. The day after G20 ended, they came up to mainstream media, said, you're mainstream media, you're mainstream. Who are you with? Oh, I'm with Texas Television, InfoWars. Well, we're going to arrest you. You're not allowed to be out here. in America on a hill over a university aiming a camera down 300 yards. That's America. The cops actually believe that and treat you like you're in an occupied third world country. Let's go to Thomas. You're on the air. Go ahead, sir.
Hi, Alex, you there?
Yes, I am.
Hey, thanks for taking my call. I had the pleasure of meeting you in San Antonio at the gun rally. I was standing behind you while you were interviewing Sergeant Slaughter, and one of his cronies pushed me out of the way because I was getting too close to the king, I guess. I don't know.
Oh, when I interviewed the San Antonio police chief? Yeah, we did an open carry demonstration, and I had my M4 strapped to my back, along with about 1,500 other Texans. And, you know, the police didn't implement their law against open carry, even though it's unconstitutional. They backed off that day, didn't they?
It was a good thing, you know, but once everybody started dwindling down, you could see then they starting putting pressure on people to get out of there. But
that's right. Well, we're enemies. You know, we're the food. Got to be kept in line. Go ahead.
One of the reasons I called, though, to tell you, I worked for an oil company in 2010 over in Iraq. And when I was there were no banks. There were, no debt there. And we drilled the well, and we made tremendous amounts of oil. So the plan was to extract the natural resources. And I still keep in contact with the friends I made there locally, and now they all have credit cards and banks all over northern Iraq.
Well, that's why the globalists come in and take down sovereign nations, is they want to get you into their debt money system. You're absolutely right.
There was the shadow investor that was called Shamaran Petroleum. ShamaranPetroleum.com. Just looks evil, and the literal translation for it is King of Serpents, is what they call themselves. So, I'm a religious person, so it just seemed bad to me all the way around. I got out of that business because it just didn't feel right, if you know what I mean.
I hear you. What else did you want to talk about?
I witnessed a wreck over in Pleasanton, Texas. I'm still in the oil field down here in South Texas. I witnessed a wreck, and I pulled over a truck. It was during that first ice storm in January. A truck ran into the back of a little car and then took off. He let that car crash. I got out to wave traffic away from this car until police arrived. And the guys were unconscious when I got there. They woke up. They were really hurt. This truck had smashed into them and then drove off. And when the cops got there, the first thing they asked me was, "Were you in the wreck?" I said, "No." I said, "It's these gentlemen over here." And he walks up to the gentleman, and instead of seeing if they're all right, he asked, "Have you guys been drinking?"
Well, that's because it's not protect and serve. It's raise revenue, put as many people as they can in prison.
Hey, Alex, can you please, in your Star Wars deep voice, can you say Sean is so trendy for me?
Tom is so trendy?
Sean is so trendy.
Oh, Sean is so trendy. Sean is listening to the InfoWar. We'll be right back. A whole stack of news. We're going to cover this on the nightly news some more tonight, but later in the next hour I'll get into it. Most of the new polio-type cases worldwide have been directly, even in mainstream news, connected to the vaccines. Just like whooping cough on the West Coast has been connected to the vaccines. People get it from the vaccine. And I believe, from the evidence, that's where this is coming from. But here's a headline. Paralysis cases spike in wake of Bill Gates polio vaccination effort. Infowars.com. And the article links through to the EU chairman of the World Health Organization and others, and the Times of India, you name it. Here's NBC. Bill Gates polio vaccine program caused 47,500 cases of paralysis and death. That's just some of it. The live polio vaccine that's still being given, even though it's illegal in the U.S., is just simply devastating. So some of that's coming up as well. The Supreme Court is coming out expanding police searches of homes without warrants. 'Tis the season to overthrow the republic. I'm going to go back to your calls briefly. Remember, we're listener-supported. That's why I bring you the very best products we can. You hear a lot of talk out there about gravity-fed filters. I only sell the very best. That's Pro Pure and the Pro One system that cuts out the glyphosates, the fluoride, all of it. And it's better quality and is the same price or less than leading competitors. And when you put in promo code WATER at InfoWarsStore.com, you get 10% off the already lowest price. And we have the full selection of Pro One. And we have several other brands as well that are a little bit less, that aren't quite as good, but are more affordable. So we carry really high-quality water filtration systems. That's a great way to start your path towards health. With all these designer viruses, chemicals, biologicals out there, you know, my uncle and cousin died of viral pneumonia with bacterial complications in December and January of this year, December of last year, my cousin. And I was talking to John Harmon of Genesis, 3 gold brokers that are in the same building, because Midas Resources is the parent company, guys that I've known a long time, died. And they would get chest infections, and one had a heart attack from it. The other 2 died from it, directly from it. And they said, oh, yeah, there's a mystery illness filling up the hospitals in Minnesota. Same thing at the hospital my uncle died in Tyler, Texas. They, for 4 days, were turning away all patients because they were full of people dead and dying from this stuff. And I have had this stuff for 3 weeks and have been fighting it and feel like my throat is raw meat. So thank God I'm on the Nascent Iodine. Thank God I'm on the Survival Shield. Thank God I'm on the purified water. All this is helping me. But InfoWarsLife.com to get the Survival Shield that's helped all my organs and glands. It does amazing things. We have the Fluoride Shield. It's the Nascent Iodine and 5 other compounds that detoxify fluoride, also heavy metals and other toxins. And we have Super Male Vitality. We're running that 15% off special into next week. And we did sell out of it, but more just came in yesterday. A limited supply, because the word's gotten out on this. This was kind of a sleeper product. At first, it wasn't selling well at all, and now we can't even produce enough of it because it has the 8 super herbs concentrated. Because the word is getting out. People are reordering. They're telling friends about it. It works for women as well. Super Male Vitality. But we're going to come out with a female version that's tweaked, has a few different things in it. Women really like this. I'll just leave it at that. The energy, the health, the vitality triggers your body to give you a good hormonal balance from the research we've done. Super Male Vitality, InfoWarsLife.com, or calling toll-free, 888-253-3139. And you can ask about the specials and get them there. All right, we're going to come back right now with more of your phone calls. We got a special guest. Coming up at the bottom of the hour for about 10 minutes, we're going to have a gentleman who was kicked out of a Texas voting booth for wearing a pro-Second Amendment shirt. The Austin police chief's going to be in studio talking about, do we have the right to refuse any order of a police officer? Well, the Supreme Court and state courts have always said we do, but the police say we got the guns and you don't. This is the New World Order. So I'm always very interested in the fact that he's willing to come in here and get chewed on. But we look forward to that coming up. Also coming up, NATO responds to Russia mobilization over Ukraine. Confirmed Fukushima radiation reaches west coast of Canada. That is just some of what is coming up today. Right now, let's go to Hiram, I believe you pronounce it, in Puerto Rico. You're on the air. Thanks for calling.
Hi, Alex. I've been listening to you for about maybe a month or 2. And, boy, I see a pattern. I don't know if I'm being paranoid, but I call from Puerto Rico, and I see the government-run healthcare and the militarized police. We've been having that since the early 90s. So when I first saw, like, the outrage about the militarized police, I didn't really get it, but I guess we've been conditioned to that for decades already. And I don't know, even the Agent Orange, back in the day, they tried it here first, Monsanto. They ran tests. I'm not very informed. I've been awake only for like 6 months after Snowden revelations.
Oh, you're informed. You're look, it's an illegal spying takeover. It's a criminal government mobilizing paramilitarily against us. And they're getting armored vehicles, you name it, lining up, setting up an epic police state, and then again, training that the number one enemy is gun owners and patriots. Go ahead.
I'm not a gun owner, but I have to tell you, here in Puerto Rico, we have one of the strictest gun control policies you can ever find. I remember my dad, back in the 80s, he needed to wait for like a year or over a year to get a revolver, a .38 caliber revolver. So most law-abiding citizens, they either have a gun or they don't. But, actually I lost 4 friends of mine last year. None of them was killed by a law-abiding citizen gun owner. So I don't think that's going to work. Like,
sure. Well, I mean, the system knows not letting the general public have guns turns you into Chicago or New York, murder capitals, or Mexico. It's because it's a criminal instinct to disarm the slaves. And that's what's happened.
And the other thing I had, I noticed that yesterday you were talking about over-feminized little girls and estrogen mimickers and all that.
Yes.
And I noticed, like, we usually take pride on that, but, like, little girls here, you see, like, 8, 9-year-old girls with breasts and, like, you know, over-developed bodies. And we always take pride on that, but I don't know, maybe I'm being paranoid, but are they using us as guinea pigs for their bigger, more nefarious...
There is no doubt, sir, that it's accelerating the aging process and cutting decades off girls' lives, all the hormones. But again, they want to feminize men, so it doubles down on the women. That's what's happening. I appreciate your call. Good point, sir. From Puerto Rico, beautiful island. We're going to come back and talk to Dave, Jerome, Sid, Rob, and others. The toll-free number to join us is 800-259-9231. And I'm also going to get into California's smartphone kill switch proposal going nationwide. This is where they can remote control everything in your house, not just your so-called smartphone that's really a computer. Confirmed Fukushima radiation reaches west coast of Canada. That is all coming up and more. Mike Adams will be with us for 15 minutes at the start of the next hour, talking about Google, robots, Kurzweil's AI, and why self-aware machines will inevitably seek to destroy humanity. Stay with us. More of your phone calls are coming up, but right now let me hit some more of the news that just went up on Infowars.com. Pollster, top pollster in the U.S., Kiev-style revolt coming to America. But the last thing we want, there's video of it too, is for the controlled kleptocratic left to hijack that and bring in a really hardcore tyranny. You see, they can create the atmosphere for a revolt and then hijack it. Former presidential advisor says soft corruption will lead to domestic disorder. Pollster and former presidential advisor Pat Cadell warns that the rise of soft oppression and corruption in the United States will facilitate a violent Kiev-style uprising in the streets of America. He's the same guy that said last week correctly that Republican leadership is going after the Tea Party, and that's why they won't investigate the IRS persecution, because they want it to continue. What we're seeing in the world in Kiev is American values at work. These people and the rest of the world are saying, we're not putting up with this, and we'll put our lives on it. And I agree that the Ukrainian government was corrupt, but the last Western-backed government was corrupt too. And George Soros and the West are in there with the State Department stirring it up. It'll end up being worse. I mean, that's what I'm saying. And it starts a confrontation with Russia. We shouldn't be involved, is my point. In this country, a populace equally dissatisfied with its political class and its leadership, we don't have the same overt oppression, but we have a very soft oppression of complacency and corruption, he added. Cadell then made a bold claim of jaw-dropping scenes of rioting or civil war witnessed over the past few weeks on the streets of Kiev were coming to America. And here's the quote. And the American people, what you're seeing there, they need their own outlet for that. It's a warning because it's coming. Full video and more of the transcript up on Infowars.com. I think that's a newsworthy story. And what's also newsworthy and ties into this is what the Southern Poverty Law Center came out a few days ago and said. More than half of white Americans are anti-black, and they use some weird flim-flam numbers that they dug up to say that. Now, you're saying, what does that have to do with revolt in Kiev and the Tea Party? Their only hope socially is to get everybody divided on race, religion, region, sexual preference, make that the issue so all the other rights can be taken, and then we just fight over those and only see discrimination as coming from a racial or religious component, not foreign banks looting us of tens of trillions of dollars a year, not foreign banks getting rid of our due process and looting our bank accounts and stealing our pension funds, not globalists using our tax money to fund all these wars. They don't want us thinking along those lines. They want us only thinking racially. And that's the divide and conquer strategy. They don't want us thinking about things like this either. In Mississippi, 72% of babies aborted are black. 26.6% are white. So you can't get a black organization like the NAACP and all these groups run by the globalists to talk about that. You can't get one Hispanic group to talk about the forced inoculation of every girl in Mexico with Gardasil on record that will cause autoimmune disorders in their reproductive tract and will actually kill a lot of them, and that's on record. Now, see, I don't want unlimited illegal aliens from Latin America here because they're ignorant. They have been dumbed down in a political system of fraud, just like Americans, and they will vote to take my guns. They will vote to go along with the system, and that's on record. But I don't want them to be dead. I care about them. But see, at a racial level, it feels better just to hate me because I'm white. It's like, okay, go ahead and abort the, and go ahead and sterilize the Hispanic women. That's loving and liberal. But if you don't want us to come here and get free welfare and have our babies free and then vote to take your guns, well, then you're a racist. The truth is, I don't like the political mindset of people in Latin America that have been taught that the only way to revolt is AKA Che Guevara communism. The truth is, if you weren't on welfare on average, and if you weren't voting for political collectivism and my enslavement, we need 30 million people from Mexico here because we've aborted the Hispanic, black, and white babies, 55 million of them. So it's what's going on between your ears that I don't like, not the color of your skin. And here it is right here, 72% of black babies aborted, but you're never going to hear the Southern Poverty Law Center that claims they care about black people. Oprah Winfrey is going to be financing a new Martin Luther King movie. That's going to be a bunch of race baiting. They'll probably have Martin Luther King give a speech and say, you judge people on their color and what group they're part of, not on the character of their deeds. Of course, he said you don't judge people on their color. You judge them on the content and character of their deeds and what they stand for. But this is how these groups are operating, erasing history. Let's go ahead and play a clip of the Southern Poverty Law Center with its hundreds of millions a year and taxpayer money and the rest of it that demonize yours truly and others and imply I'm a racist, deeply racist, as MSNBC says. Here they are race baiting, saying half of whites, that's the half that vote Republican, are fundamentally anti-black. Even though they're fundamentally against aborting black babies, they still are fundamentally against blacks. Because, if you want to chop a baby up, a black baby, that's loving and liberal. If you're against it, it's because you're racist. Let's go ahead and go to the race pimp, the race hustler, Potok.
There's polling that shows that both implicit and explicit anti-black attitudes among American whites have gone up quite significantly between 2008 and 2012. To the point where now more than half of white Americans have these anti-black attitudes.
Half of white Americans
I think that's the real evidence.
All right, Raihan, half of white Americans have anti-black attitudes?
All right, well, you heard it. I mean, are you white? Did you wake up this morning, you're racist? And I know the polls he's talking about, they're in Gallup and others. No, you had a majority of whites that voted to elect Barack Obama. And then everything turned into race baiting, and everybody got told how racist they were. And even liberal, bleeding heart, self-loathing white people are now getting mad and getting sick of being called names, getting sick of being made fun of in the media, getting sick of being attacked because we're white. And people act like white people can't even turn on a light switch. People act like white people are like the dumbest scum of the earth and beat them up, shoot them, attack them. Aha, you're white. White people are under attack in this country because the majority is the minorities. You put the minorities together in this country now, they're the majority. And then the majority of women, no matter what color they are, vote for gun control, open borders, total socialism, drones, enslavement. And that's why they think they've won, folks. And now they're going to make it all about race politics. And Homeland Security is for gun owners. Homeland Security is for returning veterans. Homeland Security is for the Tea Party, which they've branded as white, hoping, quote, minorities don't get involved in it and feel welcome in it, because we can all be unified around a culture of liberty and get past what color we are. That's what scares the system, is real, liberal, Thomas Jeffersonian type ideas. Dave in Michigan, you're on the air. Welcome.
Alex, Barack, who's not sane, will bomb us.
I think he's pretty sane, though. I mean, you know, he's helping bring down the country for the globalists, doing a great job.
I say Barack, who's insane, will bomb us, and I think he's going to use one of those nukes that he stole and detonated the one off of the coast of the Carolinas. But I called yesterday, and I really thought I'd like to get my info back out because we were in overdrive, and that doesn't get replayed.
Oh, well, listen, here's the deal. I got one pet peeve with callers. Everybody calls and does a call screening with me on air. They say, I want to talk about this. Is that okay? Listen, brother, you're on air right now. Go ahead and make a point.
I'd like to address Kevin again. I think Kevin lost faith in himself. He's been listening for 17. I've been listening for 15. My brother Gordy introduced me to you in 99.
I know Gordy. He used to live down in Austin. He moved back up there, didn't he?
Yes, he still lives in Austin. Kevin lost faith in himself because he hasn't done anything with the information that you put out. I believe your role is a messenger, and you are putting out that info war, and you are turning hearts and minds, and you are doing an awesome job. I'd like to tell you what I'm doing to resist. I'm using your sponsors. By the way, we've been making our own silver for probably 6 years from silverlungs.com, and we learned about them from you. And I haven't been sick, or my family hasn't been sick since we've been making our own silver.
Yeah, no, I've been doing the silver lungs myself.
But before you go see that eye, ears, nose, and throat guy that you got, my brother-in-law saw a good one when he had a sore throat, and he ended up having tonsil cancer. He let them take his tonsils. They poured radiation down his throat. A year later, when he said he was healed, he went back for a checkout, and guess what? He had a growth on his thyroid, which was inconclusive when they checked it for cancer, but he still let him take the growth off of his thyroid. So, you know, people are... and then back to the vaccine. My daughter, thanks to your info, okay, my daughter had my first grandson. He's a year old. He hasn't been vaccinated because of your info. He's never been sick a day in his life. He's been around, at parties, at bowling alleys with sick people all around him, picking him up, playing with his toys, touching them. He hasn't even had a cold yet, Alex, because he hasn't been vaccinated. All his cousins, they've all
I know. My children are so healthy compared to other children because they haven't been vaccinated. It's just incredible. You read the vaccine inserts, it says it doesn't even protect you. Good to hear from you. Rob, you're up next with penalties and interest if you don't get Obamacare or pay the $5,000 fine. Harry Reid's response, and the Weekly Standard has the report. In fact, will you guys grab this video? It's pretty powerful. Oh, we have the video? Great, we'll play. Yes. Harry Reid denies all Obamacare horror stories and says all are untrue. Just like there were no death panels, just like you could keep your doctor, just like Obama swore he wouldn't come after any of your guns, not your handgun, not your shotgun, not your rifle, just like he wasn't going to sign the NDAA. Turns out he wrote it and did sign it. It is an act of total betrayal, hoping that the public doesn't pay attention to what they're doing. Here he is, Harry Reid.
Despite all that good news, there's plenty of horror stories being told. All of them are untrue. They're being told all over America. The leukemia patient whose insurance policy was canceled would die without her medication. Mr. President, that's an ad being paid for by 2 billionaire brothers. It's absolutely false. Or the woman whose insurance policy went up $700 a month.
Huh.
Ads paid for around America by the multi-billionaire Koch brothers. And
hold on a minute. Back this up to the beginning. Back it up to the beginning, please. Ladies and gentlemen, my dad in the last 6 months since Obamacare went in, every 2 months he gets a letter, I've shown him on air, where his insurance goes up 35%. So it's now gone up over 100% in 6 months. He's gotten 3 letters, 35, 35, 35. Do the math. That's over 100% increase. And it is totally outrageous. My insurance through GCN, Blue Cross Blue Shield of Minnesota, gone way up. I mean, I can show you the stub. Everybody out there knows it's going up. We showed you the letters from Humana in Texas, where it's gone up 500+%. It's not debated that it's going up. It's not debated. But he just gets up there and says the horror stories are all frauds, and the Koch brothers that funded Bill Clinton, I should add, they're running ads against it. What? Well, Walmart's for Obamacare. I always love the mythical Koch brothers and all they supposedly run when they just hedge their bets and buy both parties. It makes me want to throw up. I just can't handle it anymore. Michigan Democrat Rep. Gary Peters threatens TV station license over Obamacare ad, where the woman simply talks about how she lost her doctor she liked. Remember, first Obama said he never said you could keep your doctor. Then he had, okay, I did say that. I mean, these people just tell such whopping lies. Let's go back to Harry Reid. Here it is.
Despite all that good news, there's plenty of horror stories being told. All of them are untrue.
Oh.
They're being told all over America.
That's enough.
The leukemia patient whose insurance...
Well, he sure paused there, didn't he? When he told that whopper. And you know, when you go into court and things, it's all about how you act calm and nice and that you're dressed nice. That's who the jury will go with, not the facts in modern America. What about the facts? Well, it's just Harry's the nice little old man, and he says there are no horror stories. Folks, we told you it was a foreign tax. The Supreme Court ruled that. We told you the IRS was going to enforce it. It was in the bill. It's law. Obama said they wouldn't do it. It's in the news today. The shared responsibility tax with penalties and interest implemented by the IRS. You know, if you don't pay that $5,000 in a year, it'll be like $15,000. And folks, nobody, and hey, when all this happens, they're just going to say, oh, well, that's a minority of people, or, oh, they're just Tea Party people, or, oh, no, this isn't happening to anyone. We're on the IRS website right now, if you're a TV viewer. Questions and answers on the individual shared responsibility provision. This is IRS.gov, okay? The provision applies to individuals of all ages, including children, the adult or married couple who can claim a child or another individual as dependent for federal income tax purposes is responsible for making for the payment if the dependent does not have coverage or an exemption. When does the individual shared responsibility provision go into effect? 2014. They go on to say you will be taxed in 2015 by the IRS if you don't get the insurance and list it on your form. See, they're going to be the new police of everything. That's IRS.gov, Harry Reid. Is that a horror story? Is that real? You bet it is, you little lion, gangster, thug, scumbag. We'll also get his take on the so-called polio outbreaks, the people being vaccinated in the western part of the United States. But I wanted to get this gentleman on. The story was put out last week by Kit Daniels and went viral. Man wearing pro-gun T-shirt thrown out of voting booth. In attack on free speech, election official, not servant, says man can't vote because of shirt. Problem was he wasn't an illegal alien. Now, what the law says in this state and other states is that you can't have a political shirt about who to vote for, but you can certainly have one that says Second Amendment. That'd be like having a shirt that said First Amendment. This is the same thing where in public schools, they won't let a valedictorian say they thank God, or a football player that wins say they thank God, or people can't hand out Christmas cards. That's your free speech. That's you personally. You have free association. It's that the school itself can't put out an official religion if it has state funding under separation of church and state. So they've turned that around backwards. But that's a separate issue. This is just a First Amendment issue straight up. Chris Driscoll, tell us about yourself. He joins us via video Skype. and break down what happened, the town you were in, and KVUE television also picked this up. So this report's been confirmed. This is going on. Are they trying to back up what they did to you?
No, I haven't heard anything from the local officials, and I want to say thanks, Alex, for allowing me on your show. Pretty much what I just believe it's just another attack on free speech and voting rights through the color of law, and just another example of demonization of gun owners. On Tuesday, February the 18th, I went in to early vote, and I was wearing this particular shirt. And as I was entering the polling area, they were asking me, which party which ballot I was going to be voting for in the Republican Democratic primary. And I heard a man back behind me state that I couldn't vote with that shirt on. There was another female voice that agreed with him, and then they said, "Sir, you'll have to, you can't vote with that shirt on. You'll have to turn it inside out, or you won't be able to vote." At first, I was kind of dumbfounded. It kind of shocked me, and they told me I could go into another room, turn it inside out. For a moment, I actually entered that room, and then got a little bit of clear thinking, and I decided, no, that this isn't right. I'm not. And so I stepped out and told them I'm not turning anything inside out, and that and I chose to leave at that time. Looking back later, I might have kind of looking back on the situation. If I had to do it again, I probably would have challenged it a little bit more.
That's right. That's right. Because they were trying to violate your civil rights, keeping you from voting, discriminating against you because you had a shirt that said Second Amendment 1789. In fact, show TV viewers that are watching on Skype the shirt, and I'll describe it. It says the Second Amendment, America's original homeland security, 1789, with shotguns crossed with a skull over it. And I just don't know. I mean, that is not a electioneering. That's not a candidate shirt that you're wearing.
Well, at the time, I did ask I asked the man, the poll worker there that was telling me to turn the shirt inside out. I asked him why, and he didn't get into the fact that there was some type of that there was a proposition on the Republican ballot stating that Texans should support Second Amendment liberties by expanding locations where concealed handgun license holders may legally carry. He just told me real quickly, well, that's political, and you can't wear anything political in here.
But it's not political. It's a basic right, and clearly it was discriminatory. I wonder if you'd have been allowed to wear an Obama shirt in there.
Yeah. Who knows what? And, I had a comment when someone asked me, it stated that, would they have turned away a Marine Corps shirt because it had a picture of a gun on it? Who knows? But I can tell you that it seemed like the tone of his voice and the way that he stated his reasoning and the way that he spoke definitely seemed like, to me, it seemed like he had a major problem with my T-shirt. My shirt didn't advocate for no party, candidate, or ballot measure. It was just stating a law and a fact, the Second Amendment. If it had said something about, vote yes or no on Proposition 2, and then once again, it's just a proposition. These propositions, they don't elect anyone. They don't determine any type of law. They're just an opinion. They're just a poll. So I think I really think that they just kind of stressed the law here, and under the color of law, I think they may have done something illegal.
Well, that's exactly what's going on. Well, Chris, thanks for your testimony. Where is this going from here? I mean, I guess next time you'll try to wear your Second Amendment shirt back in there again?
I probably will, or you know, I have various other shirts, and really, you know, a lot of people are thinking that I did this on purpose, or I was trying to drum up some you know, publicity. Honestly, I just put the shirt on that morning. I went to have breakfast, and on my way back, I live fairly close to the courthouse. I saw that the early voting was happening, and I happened to have my voter registration card with me that I'd recently got in the mail, so I went in and voted. You know, if I would have been on a mission here, I probably would have been arrested. But,
sure. Well, they always try to turn things around. We see young men kicked out of school because they're wearing an NRA shirt saying the right that defends the rest. We see the NFL banning pro-gun ads but allowing video game ads showing mass murder. I mean, we see real discrimination against the free speech, the First Amendment, to defend the Second. So they're trying to destroy our Second by restricting our First, and I'm glad you spoke out and drew attention to this. Thank you so much for spending time with us, Mr. Driscoll.
I appreciate it, and I want to leave you with a good favorite quote of mine from Thomas Jefferson states, "All tyranny needs to gain a foothold is for people of good conscience to remain silent."
That's right. Any other points you'd like to make?
No, sir, I do appreciate you having me on.
Thank you so much for joining us. All right, folks, we just wanted to get him on testimony to see another example of the persecution of the Second Amendment. And it happens a lot where, again, you're shooting on your own ranch. Your neighbors aren't from a rural area. They call the police on you. The police still respond and act like you've done something wrong. People wearing shirts with guns on them get questioned or thrown out of shopping malls. And, again, it's only the image of a citizen with a gun that has been made to be anathema and so evil, not the image of the state with guns. I'm going to get into what's happening in the Ukraine and California smartphone kill switch proposal going nationwide here in just a moment. And then your phone calls ahead of two special guests joining us coming up, one on Skype, one on in studio, the Austin Police Chief, Art Acevedo. But before we go any further, when you talk about the First Amendment, it's important to realize that it defends the Second. And then it's important to realize that the Second defends the First, and vice versa. They're all in mutual defense of each other. And we came out with two new shirts that are the best seller of all time at InfoWarsStore.com, which is great. It funds our operation and then gets the word out. It says Molon Labe in Greek, and then under it, it's got a very handsome Spartan helmet turned on its side or at an edge, and then it's got two crossed M4, 223, M16 variants with the Victory Laurel wreath on both sides, and then says InfoWars under it. And on the back, it says InfoWars 1776 in Roman numerals. Then we have another version that just says InfoWars on the front and Molon Labe on the back. But obviously the best seller is the Molon Labe by itself. And I came up with this design. I like this design. And it's made in America, really nice fabric, and very, very affordable for how much this cost us to have our Made-in-1776.com line of products. And you can go to Made-in-1776.com or link through to InfoWarsStore.com to the Made-in-1776 area and see photos. We'll go ahead and click on that, of Leanne McAdoo sporting the new female Molon Labe version that is gold foil sprayed on. It looks like it's been spray painted on. An awesome Made in America shirt. Absolutely fabulous with our reporter wearing it. And that is, it's a female cut shirt. It is awesome, awesome, awesome on every single front. And so this is what all the lovely and little ladies in your life and fiery patriot ladies in your life need to have, is this new Molon Labe. The male one is kind of a bronze, not sparkly, male. But the female is this gold foil. And it's got little splatter marks on it and stuff. In fact, we should probably put some more photos up there of Leanne up close. People can really see what the pattern looks like. This is the best Molon Labe shirt out there, bar none. InfoWarsStore.com. Of the known CIA operative Anderson Cooper with a green screen, blue screen, with his nose disappearing. And you can see a loop of footage shot there at the square in Connecticut, there in Sandy Hook. And you see bags blowing, and then the bag blows the same way again. I mean, it's a loop, folks. So something's going on. And they caught a Homeland Security federalized cop. They caught a Homeland Security federalized cop in the same black top camo pants, was arrested minutes after the whole thing started when local police showed up. And then they said, oh, we never stopped anybody. It's made up, even though there's helicopter footage. They later had to admit it. So there's a cover up there. All the signs are there. All the signs are there that it was a drill. And we don't know what else happened there. But it was all staged to get our guns. We know that. And so that's coming up tomorrow. I just wanted to let you know about that because it's very important. Now, when we come back, gold rises a 17-week high on signs of U.S. economy sputtering. That's Bloomberg. Putin orders combat readiness test for Western Central Russian troops. And the big one. We told you the IRS is coming for your bank account and to garnish your wages and to take your tax refund for Obamacare. Of course, Obama promised you that wouldn't happen. It is Wednesday, the 26th day of February, 2004. Caller and Fox News is going to be in studio in the first hour Friday. That's the only hour he can do it, but he'll be in studio with us for a lively discussion and debate about the future of libertarianism, the Republican Party, and more. So I think it'll be a friendly discussion, but / debate, with Tucker Carlson coming up in studio Friday when he's here in Austin, where we broadcast from, obviously. So that's coming up. And we have some really special guests tomorrow. Tomorrow we have the retired state police officer from Connecticut who's been investigating Sandy Hook and being threatened and harassed. And clearly Sandy Hook is staged. We don't know exactly what happened. I want to be clear. It's kind of like if the cops know you're lying about something and they know your story doesn't fit and they know you're involved somehow and they know your official story isn't true. They still don't know what exactly went on, you understand? But we're going to be talking to school shooting expert, threatened over Sandy Hook investigation, was told to back off if bad things are going to happen to him. Wolfgang Halbig is going to be joining us tomorrow for a full hour to be talking about what's happening with that situation. I believe they killed real kids. We know they were having a drill. We know they had actors that came out and put out the official story and got caught acting, and we've got footage. The embattled Austin police chief, Acevedo, is scheduled to be in studio. He's made international headlines in the last week with statements after the police tackled and arrested a woman who was jogging, wearing earbuds, listening to music, and did not hear their command to stop. And he said, hey, she's lucky she didn't get raped like other police departments would do. And then he gave examples of police raping women. And I guess it really is a real argument. As sneaky and slick as Acevedo is, he does have the will to come in on air and argue with me and debate. And he does say off-the-cuff things that I actually agree with. I mean, it shows how much trouble this country is in that we ought to be glad they're just not raping people like some other big police departments are. But that's not why I've got him coming on, but we'll raise that issue with him at the bottom of the third hour. By the way, one of my friends went out to eat in downtown last week and about 10 o'clock at night was leaving after the business meeting. And he got pulled over with him and his buddy, and both of them are not, one of them hardly drinks. The other person hasn't had anything to drink in 17 years. He's proud of that. And the cop screams at him, get out of the car. He's like, well, what have I done? Well, just get out of the car, and you're gonna breathe in this breathalyzer using force, using threat. Okay, I'll breathe in the breathalyzer, and then no alcohol found. So the other guy says, I haven't had anything to drink in 17 years. He screams at him and says, I don't believe you. Shut up, liar. And that all goes on. And he said the cop looked like he was about 19 years old and was just screaming at him the whole time. And I just don't know if I can handle this anymore. In a so-called free country, being treated like that. Now, most Austin police do not act like that. And I know we're a nationwide radio show. It's just that more and more, it's like we're in Fallujah and I'm an al-Qaeda operative is the way I'm being treated or something. Like I'm a terrorist, and I've just quite frankly had enough of it. But that's coming up. We're going to have open phones, obviously, today and cover a ton of news. Rand Paul is the GOP's early presidential frontrunner. While the establishment hopes for a governor to emerge, he is quietly putting together a formidable operation. Rand Paul, and then, of course, Ted Cruz are libertarian conservatives and are the guys that helped beat the gun grab in the Senate. People could say, oh, they're not perfect on this or that. They're light years better than Hillary Clinton. They're light years better than Chucky Schumer. They're light years better than Harry Reid and Barack Obama. And they have ideas that will help get this country back on track. And it shows how awake this country is, that just 3 years ago, Rand Paul was seen as a radical and as a long shot. Ladies and gentlemen, here we are live broadcasting worldwide on this Wednesday, the 26th day of February, 2014. I am your host, Alex Jones. We're going to be here for the next 3 hours. And boy, do we have some very informative guests joining us today. We've got Art Acevedo, the Austin police chief. Has been set up for 2 weeks to come on today. He's in the middle of international controversy in foreign newspapers, national papers, you name it, for saying, hey, at least Austin police don't rape and shoot and torture people, which actually is a statement I've made, that as bad as some of the Austin police are, they're better than most cities I've been to. He said that in an off-the-cuff remark, and I've actually said that to him in studio before, and now it's a big deal. But the reason I've got him coming on is to talk about the federalization of law enforcement, where he stands on the Second Amendment, and more. Mike Adams is going to be popping in on his article from naturalnews.com that's up on Infowars.com. Google robots, Kurzweil's AI, and why self-aware machines will inevitably seek to destroy humanity. He's going to be popping in. And Chris Driscoll, the gentleman who was wearing a pro-Second Amendment shirt and got thrown out of a voting booth, that story made national news. We broke it last week. That is coming up as well. By the way, he reached out to us, and we're excited about it. Tucker Carlson of the Daily